Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. We are in the south of France, and so we thought we would tell you all about the history of this area. It's so beautiful. So everything from Cassis to Menton is considered the Riviera or the south of France, or as they say in French, Côte d'Azur. But first, this is Latina Literati. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. The French Riviera, or the Côte d'Azur, or the Mediterranean coast of France, whatever you want to call it, obviously because it has almost perfect weather, very fertile soil, it has been inhabited for thousands of years. And we're talking about 100,000 years. Prehistoric people understood these were great places to live. And so along the beach, you have all these little towns that have developed, and behind them, between the towns and the mountains, you have vineyards and, of course, the lavender fields, the famous lavender fields of Provence. So this whole area is part of Provence, and it also has its own language. So Provençal, or what they call Occitan, is a little bit closer to Italian. So just one of the hints that has been shared is that whenever a word in French has a little chapeau, has a little upside down V on top of it, there used to be an S there. So Côte d'Azur used to be Costa d'Azur, or Blue Coast. So I thought that was fascinating. So from Cassis to Menton, you have all of these towns, and the British and the Russians started arriving over 100 years ago in the late 1800s because it was considered so healthy. The Mediterranean, the air, the food, everything was just great. It's interesting that Nice is taken back from Italy in 1860, and that's really when things start to take off. I think it's 1880s when the first railroads were placed through the area. So now you've got access from all over Europe, and people are coming from all over Europe to these areas. It used to be Nice was the place to be. Of course, Monaco is an enclave within this area, and that was also a nice place to be, but it didn't compare to Nice, that was kind of the playground for the Brits and the Russians and others that used to come down in the late 1800s. Considered the first modern resort area. Think about it, a place where people go just for leisure is something relatively modern. And so once you had the railway, it was actually 1864 when the railway was constructed, and so you had all of these people arriving in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and of course with them came amazing artists, so Henri Matisse and Pablo Picasso and Renoir, and amazing writers like Hemingway and others, Somerset Maugham, all wanted to be among the people that were gathering at all of these beautiful towns and boating and swimming and enjoying their time. After World War II is when the entire area just really takes off. You have huge stars like Brigitte Bardot, who buys a home in Saint-Tropez, still lives there. Everybody wants to be in Saint-Tropez as well. Monaco gets, of course, the fabulous American movie star Grace Kelly as their new princess and queen, and so all of a sudden the House of Grimaldi and Monaco become a place where the Hollywood set want to go as well. And as all of these towns are developing, you have the Cannes Film Festival in 1946 that is set up. So all of a sudden, at least once a year, there are these huge events that bring Hollywood to the area and everyone who wants to be seen with the Hollywood stars. So it really takes off after that, and it continues to be a place where people will go to vacation. So interesting that since the lockdown, people say that half of Paris has come to the south because it has so much better weather, and with remote work you can be anywhere. So the locals complain that the housing prices have gone through the roof in the south because so many Parisians have come to purchase apartments and homes there so that they can live there throughout the year. The sunny, beautiful beaches of the south of France, as I mentioned, have been home to human dwellers since prehistoric times. They continue to be places where people want to be. And so everything from Cassis to Menton, everything in between, Toulon and Saint-Tropez and all of the Caps, so many of these small towns, of course Cannes, of course Nice, of course Monaco, all of these towns are just filled with people. It's just surprising how many people, even off season, are in these towns enjoying them. So there no longer is kind of a off season, on season, whereas before the Brits and the Russians would come in the cooler time because it was so much more temperate. And now, of course, since the Americans came, these areas are filled all year long. But it is beautiful. The water is beautiful. The beaches are good. They're not the Caribbean, but they are good. And there's lots to do, lots to see. And so many of these towns, Nice, for example, so many have built museums so that you come not only for the different distractions like water and all of the different sports, but you have now really important museums of Picasso and of different artists so that you can actually see their works in these beautiful towns. And now on for my favorite part of the video, the book recommendations. The first book recommendation is Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Remember him, The Great Gatsby? Well, this is the story of a couple that travel through the south of France and their adventures and all of the things that they see and enjoy. I feel like it really sets the tone for what it was like in the early days, gives you a great description, and of course he's a wonderful writer. There are lots of books set in the south of France, but I wanted some that really gave you the feeling of what it was like when it was first established as the place to frolic, as they say. The second book that I want to recommend, this really focuses on the British. You know, when did the British start arriving? What did they do? What were their reasons for traveling at that point quite a long distance, because you had to go by boat to France and then cross it via railroad. So there was a lot of people coming in the cooler climates, and this book really gives you a background of specifically the Brits. There are so many books that you could read set in the Riviera, but again, these are just a couple of them to get you started or to pique your interest if this area is of interest to you. As always, check your library or local bookseller. We love them. We want to support them. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Thank you so much for your support. We would love you to subscribe to Latina Literati. We'd love you to comment. Let us know what you think of the French Riviera. What do you think about the south of France? Have you been there? What have you read? What are you reading? We would love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much. And as always, con mucho cariño, mucho salud, mucho amor. Gracias.